So infection. When we say infection, there is an invasion by a pathogen or infectious agent. So kumbaga, it successfully invaded the body. Nakapasok lang siya sa body natin. So contaminant. So the contaminant overcome the body's external defenses and then they multiply or get established in the body. So meron siyang yung mga infection disease. So, contaminants, yung kanina, kung magstay lang siya sa skin, sa surface ng skin natin, pwede siya na hindi man siya talaga makakos ng na may effect sa atin. Pero once na may break sa skin natin, makakapasok siya, dito na ngayon, magmumultiply siya sa loob ng body. So, disinfection. Use of physical or chemical agents known as disinfectant. So, pwede dito yung ultraviolet light sa mga hospitals. So, kapag naka-on ang ultraviolet light, huwag kayong papasok sa room. So, ay pwede ano man ang inyong mga proteins, diba? Ma-damage man. So, heat, alcohol, and bleach. So, pwede yan sila for disinfection. Sa, di ba sa atin, for spillage sa laboratory, ginagamit is 10% na sodium hypochlorite or yung bleach. This is to inhibit or destroy microorganisms, especially yung mga pathogenic, yung mga harmful na bacteria at mga microorganisms. Sterilization kasi lahat-lahat talaga. Pathogenic man siya or non-pathogenic, papatayin mo siya. So it does not guarantee that all pathogens are eliminated, such as endospores and viruses. So, sakay sterilization, sakay decontamination, di ba kanina, under sa kanya sterilization, um, special sa sterilization, talagang sterile siya, wala talagang siyang presence ng microbes, maliban sa mga prions. So, dito sa kay disinfection, pwede pang meron endospores, and pwede pang hindi talaga thoroughly na patay yung mga viruses. Although, when it comes to viruses kasi, more often than not, ang characteristic ni virus is kapag nasa labas siya ng body, mahina yan sila. Hindi sila makareplicate. So, madali lang sila actually masira, sila viruses kapag may mga chemical agents na ginagamit sa kanila. Pero sa disinfection, again, hindi lahat ng viruses pwedeng mapatay sa disinfection. So this use only in reference to treatment of inanimate objects. So, inanimate kapag mga objects talaga siya, hindi siya tao. So, mag-disinfect ka ng tables. So, tama na term is disinfect. In contaminate kapag sa mga animate objects. So, next is itong microbiology of infectious agents. So, kanina na natin ito, natouch na natin ang iba. So, rabies, we have Lysa virus species, bats, reservoir niya, skunks, foxes, dogs, human, bite of infected animal. So, yung mode of transmission. Sa dengue naman, causative agent is flavivirus reservoir. It could be human and it could be the mosquito, which is the Aedes aegypti, and transmission, of course, bite of the mosquito, of the Aedes mosquito. Hepatitis V, ang causative agent niya is orthohepatnavirus species. So, reservoir niya is si humans. So, saan ba galing? Yung nag-carry. Sino yung nag-carry sa kanya? Wala naman siyang vector. So, si human lang siya. So, sexual or parenteral or perinatal. Yan yung mode of transmission niya. Genital herpes. It is caused by simplex virus, herpes simplex type 1 and type 2 because there are two types of herpes simplex virus. So, reservoir is still human. And mode of transmission is skin-to-skin contact. So, sexually transmitted disease. Next is lentivirus for HIV or yung human immunodeficiency virus, yung sa AIDS natin. So, again, reservoir is humans. And same siya sa hepatitis B, sexual, parenteral, perinatal. Meron din tayo yung malaria, si Plasmodium, human monkeys, yung reservoir niya, bite of Anopheles mosquito. Filariasis, yung dalawa na parasite, si Wuchereria bancrofti and Brugia malayi. So, reservoir niya, humans and mosquito. So, it could be yung kanina na mention ng mga mosquitoes. So, bite of Aedes aegypti, Anopheles species. So, ito yung mga sa bite ng mga species ng mga reservoir, nag-serve ng reservoir ni na mosquito. Schistosomiasis, ito yung tatlo na parasite. Yung schistosoma ng mga parasites. So, ano yung nag-carry sa kanila? It could be the human, the cattle, dogs, the cats, the rodents, pigs, horses, and goats. So, how are they transmitted? Penetration in the skin during contact with infested water. So, di ba kapag yung mga farmer natin, is nakaon ng mga boots nila or pagsulong nila sa pag-plant nila, makakam in contact sila sa mga water na isang infestations, itong mga snails or itong ano mismo, sa parasite. So, trichomoniasis, causative agent is the Trichomonas viridalis. So, reservoir is human. So, sexual contact pa rin si trichomoniasis. So, ang carrier is, could be ang carrier is ang mga males usually carrier lang na sila. So, paano na sila mag-transmit lang. So, wala na sang effect sa ila. So, tuberculosis, we have the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So, this is transmitted when a person inhales a droplet. Of course, ang reserve one is human. Leprosy, we have Mycobacterium leprae, meningococcemia. So, just take a look at this table. Kasi kanina, di ba, na-explain naman natin ito siya. So, this just serves as a summary na lang of what we have talked about a while ago. So, sa meningococcemia, sharing respiratory and throat secretions. Drink or eating contaminated food. Yung may mga contaminant siya ng feces. So, kaya nagkaroon ng cholera. Sexual contact with the penis, vagina, mouth, or anus of an infected partner, si gonorrhea. And almost same din kay syphilis. So, ano ba itong mga reservoirs of infectious diseases of humans? When we say reservoir, these are the sites where pathogens are maintained as sources of infection. So, it could be animal reservoirs, it could be human carriers, or non-living reservoirs. Like for example, yung soil natin and sa water. So, animal reservoir, when we say zoonosis, zoo means ba animals. Disease spread naturally from their usual animal hosts to humans. So vector, ano sila act sa vector. So they acquire via a number of routes, including various types of direct contact with animals and their waste, by eating animals or via blood-sucking arthropods. Yung mga, like for example, the mosquitoes. So difficult to eradicate because extensive animal reservoirs are often involved. So the larger the animal reservoir, the greater the contact between humans and animals, the more difficult and cause it is to control the spread of the disease to humans. So, tama yun. Kapag marami naman talaga in number, mahirap yan siya i-control kung paano siya mag-transmit sa mga humans. So, human carriers. So, kapag carrier sila, usually they have no obvious symptoms. Before or after an obvious disease may be also be infective in some cases. So, it could be na kahit wala kang symptoms, but actually you're a carrier. When we say carrier, pwede kang makatransmit nitong disease na ito sa other person, especially kung ang other person na ito is mahina yung immune system. So, ikaw nakaka-come in contact. So, hindi ka nahawaan kasi for example, malakas yung immune system mo. So, ikaw ngayon na dumating sa bahay kasi hindi ka naghugas muna ng kamay and there is nakaka-come in contact ka with the virus, you become a carrier. Kapag dadating ka ngayon sa bahay and you have an elderly patient at home, when you come in contact with that person, most probably, ang mai-infect is yung immunosuppressed mo na nakasama sa bahay. So, yun yung sa mga human carriers. So, some of the carriers incubate the pathogen in their body and eventually develop the disease. So, meron pa siyang incubation stage, incubation phase. So, example nito is, pwede siya si rabies and pwede din kay HIV. Kasi, meron cases na hindi agad-agad lalabas yung kanyang mga symptoms. Nag-incubate pa siya. So, non-living reservoirs, ito yung mga soil, water, and food. Especially if fecally contaminated, it can harbor Clostridium. So, bacteria ito siya. Water can be contaminated with feces and urine containing parasitic worm eggs, pathogenic protozoa, bacteria, and viruses. Common ito siya sa mga communities na walang maayos na palikuran. So, maskin diin lang sila ihi, nagatae. So, most probably, sa water nila, pwede gid makuha ni sila. Kumbaga, unclean. Kailangan water. So, kung mag-travel ka mo, yun nga yung sabi ko na mas maganda talaga na may baon kayong tubig ninyo. And may mga crackers na kayo in case. Kasi mas okay na maging careful kayo kaysa sa mas spoil ang inyong travel kasi nga na food poisoning kayo. Or nagkaroon kayo ng parasite, nakakuha kayo ng parasite sa food or sa na-intake ninyo. So, meats and vegetables can also harbor pathogens. Yes, pwedeng may mga parasite dyan. Like for example, sa mga kapag hindi masyadong cook na mga na meat, tapos may cysts, especially kay, halimbawa, Taenia solium, yung tapeworm natin. It could be Taenia saginata or Taenia solium. Kapag pork, Taenia solium. Taenia saginata kapag beef. So kapag improperly cooked, atong mga itong meat na ito, and it has the presence of this kinds of, may presence siya ng tapeworm. Tapos, hindi siya na luto ng maayos. Most probably, pwede kang magkaroon ng parasite dahil dito. Sa mga vegetables din na hindi hinuhugasan ng mabuti, pwede din na may mga parasite dyan. And pwede ka ma-infect dahil doon. Ma-ingest mo yun, magkakasakit ka. So, sa mga sushi, kaya nga, careful with sushi. Yung mga fresh na, mga hindi pinaluto na mga foods, mga raw foods. Sino mahilig dito sa sushi? Sa ano nga yung tawag? Sashimi. Sashimi, di ba? Raw man yun na fish ang ginagamit nila. And kaya nga sa Japan and sa mga countries na mahilig na magkain ng sushi, maraming cases ng mga parasite infestation or cases of parasites, mga patients na nakakaroon ng parasitic infections dahil sa pagkain ng mga raw foods or eating vegetables na contaminated with these parasites. So, aside from that, the invasion of establishment of microbes in host or infection, another portal of entry, pwede din ito, the sites through which most pathogens enter the body. Ito yung portals of entry. Kung paano siya papasok. Three major types. It's the skin, mucous membranes, and placenta. So, pwede siya placenta na yung way kung paano magka-transmit sa kanya, mapapasok sa kanya. So, parenteral, not a portal of entry, but instead a means by which portals of entry can be circumvented. So, pwede siya yung punctures by a nail, thorn, or yung mga hypodermic needle natin. So, parenteral. Means by which of the portals can be circumvented. So aside from that, portals of entry, ito yung mucous membrane, relatively thin, moist, and warm, and their cells are living. So more hospitable and easier portals of entry, yung mga mucous membrane natin. Especially sa COVID, di ba? Ito yung sabi nila ng ingatan talaga na when you are outside your homes, you should be careful not to touch or come in contact with your mucous membranes. Kaya nga, kailangan din yung mask and yun din yung purpose ng I think sa face shield sana. So aside from that, ang pinaka-frequently used na portal of entry is respiratory tract. Mai-inhale kasi through inhalation. So, What are some pathogens that cross the placenta? It could be sa protozoan, it would be yung sa toxoplasmosis. Uh, Pathogen na nag-cause nito is Toxoplasma gondii. So, it could cause or effect niya sa fetus is abortion, pwede siya magkaroon ng epilepsy, encephalitis, microcephaly, liit yung sabihin niya, a mental retardation. Kawawa din siya kasi pwede siya magkaroon ng blindness, anemia, jaundice, rash, pneumonia, diarrhea, and hypothermia or deafness. So, Toxoplasma gondii, usually sa mga pusa, yan siya. Ang carrier nila, toxoplasmosis. So, we also have sa bacteria, ito yung sa syphilis and listeriosis. So, si Listerio monocytogenes. So, alam na natin yung kay syphilis. So, it could cause abortion, multiform birth, may mga birth defects, and then pwede rin magkaroon ng syphilis baby. So, granulomatosis naman sa may kay Listeria monocytogenes. So, nodular inflammatory lesions and infant blood poisoning. So, it could also cause death. Infant granulomatosis infantiseptics, yung kay Listeria monocytogenes. A DNA virus, we have cytomegalovirus that causes deafness, microcephaly, and mental retardation. Erythrovirus, it could cause infection, abortion rather. RNA virus, we have the lentivirus, yung na-cause ng AIDS, and we also have yung German measles. So, immunosuppression ang sa AIDS, sa mga effect niya sa fetus, and sa kanon sa German measles naman, ito actually yung yung problema is pwede magkaroon ng severe birth defect yung baby. Or pwede din mamatay. Kaya kung may measles or may around the neighborhood na meron German measles, yung mga buntis. Or dapat i-inform yung hindi sila mag-amira. Ay gamay lang, dali lang sila madapuan. Isang sakit. Pag pwede mahulog ang bata o mapatay ang bata na sunod. So the nature of infectious disease. So most infections succumb to body defenses. So dito talaga kinakailangan na strong yung body defense natin. Because when our body's defense is strong, it is capable of fighting off any foreign invaders inside the body. Maybe it bacterial infection, parasitic infection, or it could be viral. Kaya niya sana yan na labanan. Pero kasi there are certain naman na nagpababa ng immune system natin. So some infectious agents evade the defenses, multiply, affect body functions, and injure the host. They interfere with normal functioning, disease, or they could also cause disease or morbidity. So change from a state of health. So So when we say infection, invasion of a pathogen. So kapag disease na, results only if the pathogen multiplies sufficiently to adversely affect the body. So kapag may invasion pa lang, may presence pa lang ng pathogen sa body natin, that's infection muna. Pero kapag halimbawa, nag-multiply na siya sa loob and napakarami na siya to the point na parang hindi na siya masyado makaya ng ating immune system, it multiplies sufficiently to adversely affect the body. So, yun na yung disease. So, example, while caring for a patient, a nurse will become contaminated with Bacterium Staphylococcus aureus. If the pathogen is able to perhaps through because of a break in his skin, he will become infected. Then if the multiplication of Staphylococcus results in the production of boil, the nurse will have a disease. So yun na yung disease. Kasi nga, nag-multiply na siya sa loob and naka-develop ng boil. So, dito din, drug addict who shares needles may become contaminated, subsequently infected with HIV. Of course, first, wala pa yan siyang visible change in body function for years. Pero such a person is infected, not yet diseased. Wala pa siyang disease. Kasi wala pa siyang visible na change sa body function. So diseases may become manifested in different ways. So symptoms, it could subjective characteristics of a disease that can be felt by the patient alone. By the patient alone, class ha. So kung si patient lang ang pwedeng magkaroon nito, symptoms. Ito naman sa signs, objective manifestations of disease that can be observed or measured by others. So, pwede siya, halimbawa, makita na natin, physical manifestations or signs na. Kapag halimbawa, nakita natin, naga-vomit na siya, or naga-CR siya, diarrhea na siya. Sa symptoms naman, ano pa ba yung other examples? Halimbawa, fatigue. Nalaman ba natin or kung fatigue siya? Kasi 'di ba siya naman yung nakaka-feel. So kapag symptoms, siya lang yung nakaka-feel, yung patient lang. Kapag signs is nakikita ng iba. Syndrome is group of symptoms and signs that collectively characterize a particular disease or abnormal condition. Like for example, kapag si HIV or si acute immune deficiency syndrome, si AIDS, characterized by malaise, loss of certain white blood cells, diarrhea, weight pneumonia, of symptoms and signs na. Ito si symptom. Okay, so medyo dalian ko na yung ibang class ha. So symptoms, example niya, pain, nausea, headache, chills, sore throat, hindi naman natin ma-feel, di ba? Kung hindi tayo yung patient, may sore throat, sure ba? Siya lang maka-feel nun. So, sa signs naman, kapag makita tayo, oy, may rashes na si patient, oy, may rashes siya. So, pwede siyang bubo, swollen lymph nodes, tachycardia. Check natin, or napaka-increase yung heart, yung kanyang heart rate. So, ano pa? Ito ngayon yung stages of infectious disease. So, disease process, when we say disease process, a sequence of events that occur following exposure and infection. So, disease process. Many infectious diseases have 5 stages following infection. So, meron siyang incubation period. Usually, wala pa masyadong gina-exhibit ng mga signs dito. Prodromal period, illness, decline, and convalescence. So, patients likely to be infectious during every stage of disease. So, pwede siya. So, may iba na sa late stage na siya na pwedeng maging infectious, pero karamihan sa kanila, every stage, pwede siyang infectious. Okay? So, ito na yung kanina na period, incubation period. The time between infection and occurrence of the first symptoms or signs of disease. That is incubation period. So, depend siya sa virulence. When we say virulence, at kapag makamention ako later on ng virulence, degree of pathogenicity. Kung ano ba siya pathogenic, ano kalala yung effect niya. Ability of organism to cause diseases. Ito yung pathogenicity. So, gano'n siya kalala yung ability niya na makakause ng disease. So, the infected dose, depends on the virulence, infective dose, initial number of pathogens, state and health of the patient's immune system, the nature of pathogens, reproduction size, and the site of infection. So ito yung mga kung bakit iba-iba yung length ng incubation period. Like for example, sa HIV positive na mga patients, ang sa iba sa kanila, hindi pa yan nila alam na positive nila sa HIV. Kasi nga, they are still under incubation period. Sa incubation period na yun, matagal sa kanila kasi mataas yung kanilang immune system. So, it would take time before it would come to a point na napaka-suppressed na ng kanilang HIV, and then, they would then manifest yung mga signs and symptoms ngayon ng HIV. So, prodromal period. So, short time of generalized mild symptoms that precedes illness. So, before pa ito siya, mild symptoms lang siya. Not all infectious diseases have a prodromal stage. So, tandaan natin yun. So, ito na yung illness. Ito na yung severe stage, most severe stage of an infectious disease. Kanina is mild lang, mild symptoms, prodromal. Si illness na most severe stage. Signs and symptoms are most during this. So patient's immune system has not yet fully responded to the pathogens and their presence is harming the body. So, posible sa itong time ito, natin. Ginagawa niya pala sa mechanism niya para i-fight off si pathogen. So, ito yung stage usually when a physician first sees the patient. So, meron na siyang illness. Kasi late sa mga prodromal stage, minsan kasi tinatake natin, okay, parang baka pagod na ako kasi I had such a long day. So, it may just be the factor as to why I'm feeling this way right now. Pero kapag illness na kasi na ng mga signs and symptoms. And of course, talagang bakod ka na sa doctor nito. And so it is important, class, that you do not do self-diagnosis, but instead you would really talk to a doctor or consult to a doctor of the specific symptoms that you are having. Because it could be na pwede siya na halos same lang sa iba yung symptoms na and signs. And talagang needed ng isang doctor para of course yung situation mo. Kasi syempre pinag-aralan talaga mo. Mas marunong yan sila sa inyo. So when we say decline, the body gradually returns to normal as the patient's immune response or medical treatment vanquish the pathogens. Okay, so marunong na si immune system natin. Okay, alam ko na anong gagawin ko. So naka-fight off na siya ngayon and natulungan niya siya yung medical treatment. Diba, may antibiotics na nandito. So, ito na yung decline. Nag-aayon na siya. So, patient's immune response. So, kumbaga, ito na yung peak um, ni immune system. Laban kung laban na siya. Fever and other signs and symptoms subside. So, the immune response and its products peak during this stage. So, mataas yung antibodies sa blood. Kasi for them to be able to, para ma-eradicate nila yung pathogen, di ba? This is convalescence period. So, convalescence, nag-recover na siya. Tissues are repaired and are returning So, ito na yung tino-consider na portal of exit. So, nandito na tayo sa portal of exit. Lalabas na yung pathogen sa host niya. So, pathogens leave the infected patients in order to infect others naman. So, usually, lumalabas sila in the form of secretions, body secretions, or it could also be in the form of exudates. Uh, Pathogens may live in secretions, like for example, earwax. Kasi hindi ako makakapakita na ng ano ha ng PowerPoint presentation kasi hindi pa ako makakonect sa Wi-Fi ngayon sa laptop. Naga-data lang ako. So, um, secretions naman, it could be saliva, sputum, respiratory droplets. Kapag blood, it could be through arthropod bites, hypodermic needles, or yung mga wounds. And secretions naman, vaginal secretions or semen. Or it could also be brought about by milk, yung breast milk, and, and bodily waste. Like for example, feces and urine. So, infectious agent must be transmitted from either a reservoir or a portal of exit to another host's portal of entry. So, pwede siya na may different mode. It could be contact transmission, vehicle transmission, and vector transmission. So again, transmission may occur by numerous modes, and it could be categorized into these three groups. It could be contact transmission, vehicle transmission, and vector transmission. So when we say contact transmission, wait lang guys ha, nawala si wifi. Um, direct contact, that's contact transmission. Um, Mode of transmission, it could be handshaking, kissing, sexual intercourse, or yung mga bites. And examples of disease na nag-spread is cutaneous anthrax, genital warts, gonorrhea. Indirect contact, under din yan siya kay contact transmission. When say indirect contact, examples are drinking glasses, toothbrushes, toys, or punctures. So, ano mga example? Common cold, pwede siya makuha through indirect contact. Enterovirus infections, influenza, measles, Q fever, pneumonia, and tetanus. Pwede siyang indirect contact. Si tetanus, pwede siya makuha kapag masugatan tayo ng mga nails, na mga pako, and other na mga steel na mga objects. So, other punctures, cause ng punctures sa atin. Droplet transmission, still under contact transmission yan sila. So, droplets from sneezing, kapag within 1 meter, yan siya. So, example niya is whooping cough, streptococcal pharyngitis, or yung strep throat. When we say vehicle transmission naman, it could be airborne or waterborne or foodborne. Like for example, sa airborne, dust particles or droplets carried more than 1 meter. Pag more than 1 meter na siya, hindi na siya considered sa contact transmission. So example ng airborne natin na diseases, chickenpox, coccidiomycosis, histoplasmosis, influenza, measles, tuberculosis, and pulmonary anthrax. Example ng airborne. Waterborne naman, we have Campylobacter, cholera, Giardia, diarrhea. Foodborne, food poisoning brought about by staphylococcal. Hepatitis A, kapag may mga tapeworms, toxoplasmosis, and typhoid fever. Sa vector naman, yung mga example is yung kanina diba sa dengue. It could be mechanical or biological. On bodies, kapag sumasama siya sa body ng flies or roaches, example dito is yung E. coli diarrhea and salmonellosis or trachoma. Kapag biological, ito yung mga lice, mites, mosquitoes, and ticks. Example nila is, pwede yung typhus, pwede yung yellow fever, Chagas disease, and Lyme disease. So, may binigay dito na na activity. So, i-ask ko muna si ma'am dito for clarification. And then, isisend ko sa inyo later on itong activity na ito. So, this is an individual. So, you should find the following. Okay? So, isisend ko lang yun siya. Modes of infectious disease or transmission. We have contact transmission and direct contact. Yun na yung, kanina kasi sinabi ko yung example lang. So, let's take a look with these modes of infections. Kaya lang din class ha. So, contact transmission, spread of pathogens from one host to another by direct contact, direct, indirect, or respiratory droplets. So, direct contact, person to person spread. So, meron talagang body contact between the hosts. Kapag indirect naman, um, ito yung spread from one host to another by fomites. When we say fomites, inanimate objects that inadvertently used to transfer pathogens to new hosts. So, yan yung fomites natin. So, ano yung example ng fomites? It could be needles, toothbrush, paper tissues, toys, money, diapers, drinking glass, bed sheets, pwede din siya, medical equipment, and other objects that can harbor or transmit pathogens. So, ang major talaga na source is yung contaminated needles sa hepatitis B and AIDS na virus. So, another under sa contact transmission is the droplet transmission. It can be transmitted with droplet nuclei. So, droplets of mucus that exit the body during exhaling, coughing, and sneezing. Like, for example, nun is yung sa Mycobacterium tuberculosis kanina. So, if pathogens travel for more than 1 meter in respiratory droplets, the mode is considered to be airborne rather than contact transmission. So, kapag ang airborne transmission is under siya sa vehicle transmission. So, kay vehicle transmission, we have airborne and we also have waterborne and foodborne. Airborne yung mga aerosols. Sa mga air conditioning system, kapag may nag-sneeze or nag-ubo, more than 1 meter na siya. Or even flaming, inoculating loops, pwede din sa microbiology laboratory. So, waterborne, galing sa tubig, foodborne, yung hindi masyado naluto yung food, or poorly refrigerated or undercooked. So, mga food poisoning dito. Bodily fluid transmission, pwede din. So, it could be sa mga medical workers, lalo na sa medtech, yung sa blood, urine, saliva, and other bodily fluids that contain pathogens. So, pwede siya AIDS, dito, hepatitis, and herpes. So, we have the third mode, which is the vector transmission. And yun nga yung biological, and mechanical. So, kay biological, small flying insects which bite people and animals in order to suck their blood. So, ticks, belong to another group of arthropods. Pwede siya, under siya pa rin sa biological vectors. So, they not only transmit pathogens but also serve as host for the multiplication of a pathogen during some stage of the pathogen's life cycle. So, biological. So, mechanical naman kasi, not required as host by the pathogens they transmit. So, passive lang sila, vector. So, nag-carry sila ng pathogen to their new host on their feet or their body parts. So, nakadikit doon yung pathogen sa mga paa nila. So, example, yung cockroach, marami talaga yan siya dalang mga sakit. And houseflies, pwede sila maka-introduce ng salmonella and shigella sa drinking water or sa food natin. So, may examples dito. So, ipakita ko na lang siya later. Well, di kasi ako maka-on pa sa laptop. Acute diseases, meron tayong mga terms to classify infectious diseases. So, wait lang, class. When we say terms, it could be acute or chronic or subacute. When we say acute,
symptoms develop rapidly and runs its course quickly. Mabilis lang siya. Um, Mabilis siyang dumating, mabilis na siyang lumaglaho. So, chronic naman, usually mild symptoms that develop slowly and last a long time. Chronic siya. Subacute, time course, disease with time course and symptoms between acute and chronic. Kaya subacute siya. Kapag asymptomatic, yan yung ibig sabihin niya is walang symptoms. Latent, disease that appears a long time after infection. Yan yung latent disease. So, communicable disease, transmitted from one host to another. Yun yung i-discuss natin ngayon. Contagious diseases, disease, communicable disease that is easily spread. Kapag non-communicable, hindi siya masyadong, ito yun siya yung nag-arise from outside host, or, or disease from opportunistic na pathogen. So, local infection, confined to a small region of the body. Systemic kapag maraming pwedeng maapektuhan sa body natin. Nag-travel siya sa blood or sa lymph natin. Kapag focal infection, serves as a source of pathogen for infections at other sites in the body. And we also have primary and secondary infection. When we say primary infection, initial infection within a given patient. And when we say secondary infection, follow a primary infection and often by opportunistic pathogens. Ito yung secondary infection. Like for example, yung sa um, HIV na papasukan agad ng opportunistic pathogen. So secondary infection na yun siya. So, kung there are different types of classifications for infectious diseases, meron din tayong different defenses ng host. So, may tinatawag tayong innate immunity. Yung nasa loob natin. Yung talagang naturally, meron talaga tayo nito. So, we have the first line of defense and we also have the second line of defense. And we have and sa innate immunity, meron din tayong adaptive immunity. So, innate and adaptive. Under kay innate, meron tayong first line of defense and second line of defense. Sa first line of defense, we have yung mga physical barriers natin, external physical barriers, like for example, our skin, our mucous membranes. Second line of defense, internal na, itong mga cells natin, and blood-borne na mga chemicals and processes. So, adaptive community ngayon, this is our third line of defense. Ito yung cells din natin and the lymphocytes. So, expanded program on immunization. Sabi nila, 1 every 2 child deaths in developing countries are due to just 5 infectious diseases and malnutrition. So, 54% ang malnutrition. So, malaki ang percentage niya. So, pneumonia is 19%, malaria is 7%, diarrhea is 15%, 3% naman ang sa AIDS, and measles is 8%. Ito yung nag-contribute sa child death. So, immunizable childhood illnesses. Ano ba yung mga illnesses na supposedly pwede sanang ma-prevent, brought about by immunization? It could be tuberculosis. So, actually, ang TB is world's deadliest disease. Rank 6th cause of mortality and morbidity in the Philippines, si tuberculosis or TB. So, alam naman natin kung ano yung causative agent niya, as well as paano siya na-transmit. Incubation period niya is actually 6 to 12 months. So, how long can it be able to infect other people? As long as tubercle bacilli are discharged in the sputum. So, kung may presence pa rin siya ng tubercle bacilli, pwede din siya maka-affect pa din sa iba. Infectious pa rin siya. Si measles naman, pwede din siya, kapag through immunization, pwede siyang maiwasan. So, due to complications usually ang kanyang cause ng death ng mga bata dito. Ang causative agent ni measles is paramyxoviridae or millivirus, morbillivirus, or yung measles virus. So, I will ask na lang siguro, Ma'am Sha, if I could send you the PowerPoint since hindi ko lahat napakita sa inyo since may power interruption. So, incubation period ng measles, going back here, we have 10 to 12 days until appearance of fever and about 14 days until rash appears. So, pwede siya maging infectious hanggang 9 days. 4 days before and 5 days after the appearance of rash. So, kaya 9 days siya. So, aside from that, we have chickenpox. O yung causative agent niya is varicella zoster. Direct contact and droplet spread. Pag ma-inhale mo yung droplets. Secretions from respiratory tract ang source of infection. Incubation period, 2 to 3 weeks. Average is 13 to 17 days. So, kailan ba siya infectious? Less than 1 day before and 6 days, more than 6 days after appearance of first crop of vesicles. So, kung papali na siya, kung nag-aayon na siya, more infectious na siya. So, before sa kanya, before yung appearance, before mag-start, 1 day before or less than a day before, infectious din siya. We also have diphtheria. Infection, acute febrile diphtheria occurs pertussis, wait lang. Si pertussis or yung whooping cough. Wait lang, kasi I think ito yung ipa-assignment sa inyo. Wait lang. Okay, so yun pala yung ipapa-assignment sa inyo. Okay? So, yung sa inyong groupings, i-ano ko yan kay ma'am. Sasabihan ko lang siya and I will give further announcement with yung individual activity ninyo. Okay, for your NSTP, mag-a-announce na lang ako. Please paki-share na lang din ng information sa iba niyong kaklase. So, I have asked you dati to have your documentations, diba, sa mga activities natin, yung in the past. May pictures ba kayo nung, yung time na nag-fun walk kayo? May pictures kayo nun?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, so, starting from that program or that activity, please, ito yung project niyo for your midterms. Ito yung midterm requirement ninyo. Please compile these pictures and um, uh, i ano yan? Isa-submit niyo ito sa akin and lagyan niyo ng captions each pictures ha. And then I want you yung groupings niyo, 'di ba you have 8 groupings? Yung ISP niyo di ba may groupings kayo yung ipa-follow ko dati. Na-remember niyo pa yung groupings ninyo?
Yan pa ba yung first sem po, ma'am?
Yung 'Di ba sabi ko dati yung PMLS na activity niyo same yung sa NSTP niyo na groupings?
Yung alphabetical po, ma'am.
Yes, yung alphabetical. Let's just use that grouping. So, yung groupings doon, ilan ba yung hindi kasali sa inyong PMLS? Dalawa ba? Dalawa lang naman sila, no? So, yung dalawa niyong kaklase na hindi kasali sa PMLS, pero na STP, ano lang, sino nga yung walang NSTP? Si Tenner? Ano ba si Tenner ng ano? Sino ba yung walang NSTP dito sa inyo? Lahat ba kayo meron? Okay. May tatlo tayo. Okay, so magsabit na lang talaga ako ng other yung ninyo. Pero meron kayong groupings nung yung first sem ninyo.
Yes,
Meron po,
Meron
ma'am.
kayo nun. So,
po.
sige, yun na lang yung i-follow ninyo, yung sa first sem ninyo, para hindi na kayo ma-confuse sa groupings. And then, as a group, yung output ninyo, but I should see na besides sa compilation ng pictures ninyo with captions, dapat meron din kayo yung feedback ninyo per activity. Like for example, nung nag-fun walk kayo, ano yung remark nyo about doon, ano yung na-learn nyo during that activity. So, dapat meron kayo, tig-isa-isa kayong member per activity. Parang reaction nyo per activity yun. Pero, i-compile nyo pa rin yun siya. Okay? I will give points din kung ano kayo ka-creative pag gawa nyo ng project ninyo. Yes? Ano yun? Arkay, ano yung question mo?
Ma'am, mag-ask po sana ako about sa PMLS po, yung need sagutan.
Mm-mm.
Activity 3 and 4 lang po.
Oo, 3 and 4
Yun.
lang.
Yung ano lang po, ma'am, no, yung pwedeng ma-detach ang i-submit.
Oo, yung pwedeng ma-detach.
Ay, sige po, ma'am. Thank you po.
Sige, sige. Any more questions? Okay, so I will end our lecture today. Thank you so much for your time. Okay. Suwa, ano yun?
Ma'am, yung sa group reporting po sa CPH, face-to-face din po ba yan or online lang po?
Yan din ang tatanungin ko kay Ma'am Che, kung okay lang sa kanya mag online. Kasi parang face-to-face yan eh. Pero sige lang, i-ano ko lang sa kanya.
Okay po, thank you.
I-refer ko sa kanya. Archive. Ay, tama ba? Ano
Ma'am,
yun?
yung about po sa NSTP, saan po siya ilagay? Sa A4 na bond paper po ba?
Yes, A4 pa rin na bond paper.
Okay po, ma'am. Thank you po.
Amodia. Yes, Amodia.
Ma'am, since 'di ba gamitin namin yung groupings namin pag first sem po, ma'am.
Oo.
What if yung mga bagong student po, ma'am, saan po sila i-assign, ma'am?
May kulang ba per groupings ninyo? Close ba kayo na halimbawa per group tig ilan kayo sa past grouping ninyo?
5 po sa amin, ma'am.
Tapos meron ba kayo ng mga other groups na tig 6 sila? Wala. Oh. Sige. I-include ko na lang sila dalawa lang man di ba sila na wala sa PMLS natin? Dalawa
Opo.
lang ba sila?
Opo, ma'am.
Okay,
Pero
ano?
may mga new student po din po, ma'am, na dalawa din po. So, bali 4 po sila.
New student.
Sila Fakura, sila
Ay,
Mora.
oo nga pala. Oo, no. Okay. So, yung kanila sa case nila, can you send me a list of your past groupings nung first semester? Para i-ano ko na lang, i-edit ko na lang, i-add ko lang. Sige. Arol, ano yun? W, ano yun? You're
Nasa
raising your
group na po
hand.
namin sila, ma'am.
Ha?
Nasa group na po namin si Pakura at Morales sa
Okay.
NSTP.
O, sige. Pero pakisend lang sa akin yung ano ninyo ha, yung prior ninyo na groupings. At least
Sige po.
I can know. Okay, so I think that would be all. Do you still have further questions? Kapag wala na, I'll be ending our class now. Thank you so much for your time, class, and spend this weekend na mag-review talaga kayo for your exam. God bless, kaya niyo yan, guys. And wait lang pala, nakita ko yung picture ha. Actually, pwede naman kayo maglabas din kasi it's your form of distressing kasi since kaparating na yung exams. Pero class, wag lang kayo mag-uniform, okay? And wag nang dalhin yung ID ninyo. Kasi ano siya, informal siya na setting tapos naka-uniform kayo. So let's protect the integrity of our school para ano lang, hindi lang kayo mag-uniform kapag lalabas kayo, maggagala kayo. If you're having your lunch, it's okay. Pero kapag magpupuntahan pa kayo iba, so wag lang tayo mag-uniform, okay? So understood? Yes? Ano yun? Ano yun?
Sa groupings po kasi yung sa pictures po sa NSTP, ma'am.
Oo.
Yung ano po kasi kami, napa-picture po. Yung mga bago na po
Mm-mm.
namin na group. So, if po sa SEM 1 na po na grupo, para makalito po ang pictures.
Ano yung i-follow nyo yung time na nag-picture kayo? Di ba may groupings kayo nun?
Yung sa PMLS po na group, ma'am. Yung
Saan pala,
alphabetical po.
okay, saan pala nagsali yung mga iba nyo na guys na hindi kasali sa NSTP?
Nasa
Yung
group po na
ones.
nasa group po
Ah,
namin si Bustamante tsaka si Culantro, ma'am.
so yun, sino pa ba yung group sa kanila?
Yung sa amin po, ma'am.
So kung ano yung grouping yung picture kayo, yun na lang yung ifa-follow ninyo para hindi kayo. So yun na lang. Pero just send me the list of those group members para at least aware din ako kung ano yung ifa-follow ko. And then, please do not forget to indicate your group members on your project ha. Sa end nyo lang siya ilagay. Ilagay ninyo group members. Ganito, ganyan. Okay, so understood? Nurse Suwa, yes?
Ma'am, may balita na po ba regarding po sino advisor namin this SEM? Kasi yun na lang po kulang sa
Oo.
kulang po namin.
Okay. Ako daw yung advisor ninyo. So, magsasign ako sa inyo by Monday. Mag-start ako mag-sign on Monday.
Okay po, thank you.
Okay, so sige, thank you. Wala na kayong questions? Wala na. Okay. Just spend your weekend wisely, okay? Spend it preparing for your exam. Okay, then just kaya niyan. Bye, guys.
Thank you po,
Good
ma'am.
day po, ma'am.
Bye.